It's a little bit warmer here today. I think it's something like 15 degrees now. So it got a little bit warmer. We actually saw the sun today, which was nice. Oh, okay. Maybe 15 is being a little bit generous. 13 apparently. But at least it's not raining. So just the fact that there's a little bit of sun makes me feel a lot happier. But I'm still cold. My brain and my fingers actually still aren't working quite so good. Yusuf, can you hear us? Or hang on, if he can't hear us, that question won't make much sense, will it? Oh, okay, you can. Good. What kind of issue do you think you have? Is it just with your connection? You're not sure if you'll be able to talk, or?
Hello.
Hi.
Hope you are doing very good. No, I just like once I clicked on the session voice, it's happened like a kind of I was late, or my account was late to appear in the names area.
Okay, there was a bit of a delay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's see how it goes then. Hopefully it'll be okay. We can hear you okay right now, so hopefully that means whatever issue there was is kind of being fixed. But let's see how it goes. Okay. Let's get started then. Today we're going to be talking about the article from Tuesday, which was about salaries and why most workers are never really satisfied with how much they're earning. So to start off with, what do you all remember from the article? What were some of the ideas that it talked about? Steph, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I had the chance to read a little bit about the article, and the idea, or the general idea of the article, it's people, let's say workers, most of the time they are not satisfied with their income or their salary, and they started the article by mentioning someone. His name is Sam, and they provide his example. They gave his example in the whole topic. So basically, Sam is not satisfied regardless of the high salary he gets, and the bonus that he gets also. And even Sam, like, he live in an area where it's a very expensive area, and so regardless that he go to the restaurant a lot during the week, and he save some money, and after all that, he also not satisfied. Like, he's not satisfied yet, like, with the salary that he gets. And the topic or the article gave some reasons that make people not content with their salary, and one of them, it's like they comparing themselves with others. They comparing their salaries with others, and like, for example, Sam gave an example. He said, when I hang out with people, they earn like less salary than me, I feel content. But comparing to others, like, they get usually the people they work with, or his coworkers, when they comparing himself with them, like, especially people who get wages, like wages that are more than his wages, he feel like he's not satisfied. So the first reason it's is comparing himself with others. Second could be the ego. So most people, they are naturally, they mentioned they are naturally try to be better than others, and so that's what lead them to, in terms of income, they want to earn more money than the others, or like similar or more than them. Yeah, so that's what I can remember. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Let's see what Constantine and Manu remember, if they can add some more details here as well. What else do you both remember? Manu, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add another factor that researchers said played a role in wanting to earn more. That was the lifestyle creep, which is that when you earn a sum of money, you get accustomed to a certain kind of lifestyle, so you can afford such kind of expensive items, and then you can't regress, you can't come down to a lower level. So at any wage increase, you level to this kind of lifestyle, and maybe want to experiment some more luxury items too. So you want to earn more, and also there is this fact of the endorphin hit. So when you get a wage rise 1 year, and then you get satisfied in some inner way, and then if the next year you don't get the same wage rise, you feel like disappointed in a way. You think maybe you start comparing yourself with your last year self, and think maybe you are regressing, you're not so valuable as you were a year before. So you don't want to come back, to jump back to the level you were the previous year, because earning also for the article said for American women and men in particular is also considered as a gauge of self-worthiness, how much you are considered, you're valued by the society maybe. So and also is a measure of personal success. You are expected to be even more successful. So the wage level is considered as a measurement of your level of success. So it is this is what I wanted to add to the summary by Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Yeah. So I think it was kind of clear that there isn't maybe just one reason why this happens. It's maybe a number of different reasons, and maybe some reasons are stronger for some people than other reasons would be. Constantine, is there anything else you think they missed? Anything else you wanted to add?
I'm not sure, maybe about some psychologists that say about the reason of this process. Tessa West, professor of psychology in New York University, also explained about the salary, why salary amount was historically a taboo, because you in many companies you can't share this information, so it's also matter. And maybe for my personal opinion, it also very depends on corporate culture of companies, and maybe you read something like that, so it's about business literature. Mellow, maybe it's some kind of yellow page, but it's, there are different there are different companies culture, and they divide by the and they differ by their color, and it's maybe symbolic separation by their color, independent on their corporate culture. So we have red companies, and also we have green, blue companies and green companies, and green companies is in this rating is most transparent, have most transparent corporate politics, and I'll always know about the salaries of each other, and this system moving in this way. But most of companies prefer to hide it, and it may be depends on because people tend to compare, and if your colleagues earn much more money, so you also should aim to this amount, and it is not maybe profitable to employers share information like that. So maybe it is all what I want to add, and all I remember from the article. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Yeah, that was another reason I'd forgotten about that one, about comparing kind of your salary with other people. And that maybe makes people feel less satisfied with the salary they're actually receiving when they can compare it quite easily with other people who are doing the same job. So maybe we should have a look at each of these reasons kind of separately a little bit. So the first one was about comparing it maybe to let's say your friends or the people that you spend most of your time with. So I guess your close friends or your close colleagues, the people that you see most of the time at work. How what do you think about this reason? Do you think this is like a big reason why some people feel maybe unhappy with their salary, or they want more because they're comparing themselves to people around them? Yusuf?
Personally, I believe that this is the strongest one, yes. When you compare yourself with others, what make you not comfortable with your situation and always want to be like earning more. So yeah, I believe this is what most people struggle with, and they cannot like control something they cannot control, I believe, most of the time. Yeah, that's it. Probably sometimes, not sometimes, but for sure, yeah. It's and this is a very realistic, realistic reason, if I can say that. People, they want a higher salary just because probably their hard circumstances, but most of the time comparing with others could be the issue. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, obviously, maybe we're kind of skipping one of the reasons that people want a salary increase, so they, as you said, they're in difficult kind of situation, difficult conditions, and, just to cover their cover their living costs, they need a higher salary. The article kind of skipped that one. It's focusing maybe on people who have enough maybe to live on and maybe still aren't really satisfied with what they have. So yeah, I think even if we try not to, we kind of subconsciously compare ourselves with other people around us for lots of different things. Manu, what do you think?
Yes, thank you. But I can't understand why the man in the article, the well-off man earning a lot of money, said he felt uncomfortable hanging out with his peers, his colleagues. So people earning more or less like himself, because I could understand be uncomfortable if you couldn't afford the same expenses as the other people you hang out with. But if you are hanging out with people earning approximately like yourself, I can't understand this kind of problem, this kind of envy, because I think anyone tend to hanging out and going outside with people who have the same interest, who can have the same level of expenses. I mean, if I know I couldn't drink outside any evening with someone, I wouldn't think of hanging out with them. I think I would turn to people who can afford the same expenses as me. So I think if you join a group of colleagues or friends, I think that usually all people in this group can afford the same kind of expenses. You're not so different in the level of expenses you can afford, I think. So I think there is a kind of the choice is made before prior to physically hanging out with someone. I don't know if I'm clear enough. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And I think this is an interesting point, actually. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit more, because while I would say that I would agree with you, I would do something similar, Manu. And I don't know. I feel like maybe everybody here would maybe do that. But I can also think of kind of examples of people who maybe want to hang out with people who aren't, let's say, in the same group as them, or maybe aren't in the same income bracket as them, who like to maybe pretend that they're in the same income bracket, or act like they're in the same income bracket. So I don't know if anybody else can think of examples of this as well, maybe. When you've seen somebody maybe spending something or doing something and you kind of think, I don't think that person can afford to do that. Like, how are they doing this? I don't think they earn enough money to be able to do that. There are some people who kind of spend beyond your means, when you kind of spend money that you don't actually have. So maybe those people particularly would never be happy with whatever they're earning, because they're always spending more. Konstantin?
Excuse me, maybe it's too much quote from the so-called business literature from me today, but I also have to give you some example. For example, I heard the meaning and when you want to be richer and you want to earn more, you should to communicate with people who earn more. And it is also related to comparing yourself with people around you, and also it's even the relativity theory. And for example, if you move, you only have ability to feel the moving relative to other objects. So it's why comparison is so deep in human nature, and it's maybe also about system of values, and appreciate the value of yourself, and maybe if you have that kind of system, it is important for you to be not to earn not less than your colleagues or something like that. But for me personally, it's maybe some kind of like to be a hamster in the wheel, or some cockroach race, rat race, or something like that. I don't know how it called in English, but for me personally, it makes no sense. So we have a lot of money in our world, and we have a lot of things that cost much more than money, and it's some priceless things. So it's the maybe the amount of the salary, it is not in my system of values. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I've heard that kind of advice before as well. That idea that you should hang out with the people that you want to be like, or that if you're aiming for something bigger, you have to pretend you already have whatever it is. So I have heard that kind of advice before. I'm also not sure if I kind of agree with it, but I have heard it. So I understand that some people do kind of follow those kinds of ideas as well. Manu?
Yes, thank you. Relative to your question, your written down question, I think is something. Yes, if your income bracket changes, I think also your close circle of friends change as well. But it's not a choice. I think it's something that happens smoothly without you wanted to. It's something that I mean the relations slowly slacken kind of change, because obviously your friends don't want to lose you, and it is reciprocal. So friendships, friends want you to remain friends to them, but if you can no longer afford the same expenses, the same lifestyle as your previous friends, I think relationships tend to break, and the friendships tends to interrupt. Is something that happens spontaneously, I think, because it is in the fact, it is, yes, Konstantin, you're right, money, tax. If you can't afford the same lifestyles, your lives tend to separate, I think. It's something that no one wants, but it happens because it is so. People is separated in spending groups, I think, in society. So if you can no longer afford the same lifestyle, the same expenses, you are breaking your relationship, your previous relationship. So it is something that you don't want intentionally, but it happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it may end up to be kind of like almost a natural consequence, really, of everything else that happens. So there's maybe that might be slow, but kind of gradually kind of happens without you really realizing it. Okay. Well, what about then this idea that because you get a pay rise 1 year, or maybe you get a pay rise a few years in a row, you start to expect that every year you'll get a pay rise. Do you think how important do you think this reason is to people kind of expecting or wanting to get a little bit more? Do you think that most people kind of expect that their salary is going to increase every year? Do you think that's kind of like a belief that most people have, or what do you think about this idea? Konstantin?
Yes, I think you are right. People expect to increase in their incomes because their experience have biggest opportunities, and maybe you're improving your skills, and it should cost more expensive than your previous skills. So maybe that's why people expect, and our expectation is have no boundaries. And for example, if you have great chance and it is maybe a well-paid job, so your next job should be more expensive, have more biggest value for wage, and it's normal process because you comparing yourself with you're in the past, and you have some skills, and their skills was improved, so they cost more. It should cost more expensive, maybe, for my opinion. That's why people wait for the increase in their salaries. Thank you.
Okay, so you've got that idea that you have 1 more year of experience now, you've got more valuable skills, so therefore your work this year is worth more than it was last year. Okay, that's kind of logical for me. What does everyone else think? Do you think there is this kind of expectation that you should get a pay rise every single year, or that maybe your work deserves to be paid, like your compensation, I guess, for your work should be a little bit higher every single year that you work? Great expectations, yes. I think this topic today actually is a lot about expectations. Manu?
Yes, it is the pay rise any single year is also dependent on your productivity. I think if you are not producing more in your workplace, pay rise is not justified. So it also depends on these factors, your performance, I think. So you could expect a pay rise, but you also have to give something to your employer. Otherwise, your pay rise couldn't be justified, I think. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not just about the amount of time you've been working, it's also about maybe what you're producing as well, or what else you're able to do. It has to be maybe both of those aspects, not just one of them. Okay. Anything else about this one? Yusuf, what do you think? You've been quiet for a while. Oh, maybe we've lost him. I've just realized he's been very, very quiet for a while. Maybe he's not, maybe he can't even hear us anymore. Okay. There was also this idea that I know was a little bit controversial when we were reading this article on Tuesday, right? With this idea that your salary is maybe a reflection of how successful you are, right? And the idea that to show that you're more successful, you should also be earning more money. So I wanted to ask you all about this idea. What do you think the connection is here between money and success? Do you think there's a connection? Do you think there's no connection? Do you think there should be a connection? What are your thoughts on this? Konstantin?
Thank you so much. Yes, in the world we live in at the moment, it is a fact. Money is very relative with the success, your personal success, and it just rules of the current world. So for me, it is obviously, and it is the fact. Maybe that's why sometimes I feel like a loser, because I am not rich, but maybe if to compare with another people, I look even more loser than I can imagine. So it's about some system where we live, and our society built around these rules. And then you have biggest income, you have maybe more opportunities and more you looks like more valuable person and character in the world. And it's I just I know it from my personal experience, and you should to make an impression of a rich man to take some contracts or something like that, to speaking with your clients. You have to make some impression of a rich man, because it depends, they are ready or not to pay you some amounts. So that's just the old funny world. So that's our values and our system of values. So I agree with you, the amount and the salary values very relative with the success, this understanding of success nowadays. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe there's this idea that maybe money shouldn't be associated with success, but it is for a lot of people. It does have kind of this connection, or is maybe a visible sign of it, when maybe some other things aren't so easy to see, aren't so easy to understand. Manu, do you agree with Konstantin on this, or what are your thoughts?
Yes, I agree, and I was thinking when you asked about the relation between success and money. I was thinking of maybe also novelists in the past, for instance, were very famous, and it is interesting that, for instance, there is a very important Italian novelist of the 18th century, was considered maybe the most important novelist at all in my country, who in the last years of his life, he lived a life, a very poor life. He couldn't even sustain himself. He died very, very poor and had to be sustained by the country, the country fundings. So it is interesting also this aspect that you could be famous because of your abilities as a novelist. So a worker of knowledge, and at the same time, if you lose your popularity, maybe because sometimes has passed, maybe because you made you did bad bad financial affairs. Maybe you lost all your money. You can end up as a poor person, even though you wrote very important novels. So it is interesting also this aspect. Maybe it is not. This does nothing to do with what you asked, but it is something that came to my mind when you asked about the relationship between money and success. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I think it makes sense because I think there are some stories like that, some quite famous stories of people who we consider to be quite successful, but at the end of their lives were extremely poor, and probably weren't living in very good conditions. I think I think Constantine mentioned Van Gogh here. I don't know if it was Van Gogh or if it was someone else, but I'm pretty sure one of those really famous Italian artists was like this as well. You know, kind of the last 5-10 years of their life, they were broke. Even though now they're considered, you know, one of the most successful artists of all time. So I think that's probably a very good example that the two, success and money, don't necessarily go together. That, you know, just because you have one doesn't necessarily mean you have the other. And this novelist that you're talking about as well, I think that's another good example of it, that just because you're maybe successful doesn't mean that you're going to be rich as well. And I guess the opposite could be true as well. If we think of some of the celebrities we have in the world today, we can definitely say that maybe some of them are very rich. They've got a lot of money. I don't know if I would describe them as being successful, though, unless we're talking about them being successful in maybe figuring out how to earn lots of money from doing nothing. I'm thinking about all those reality TV stars. Okay. There was another question about this as well that I was going to ask you all, related to the salary transparency. How influential do you think this is? Do you think knowing, you know, what your workmates earn, or knowing what other people in the company earn, or what people in other companies earn for doing the same job as you, do you think that influences how satisfied or dissatisfied you are with your own salary? Constantine?
Thank you so much. And maybe is hard questions to me because I never face it with such kind of companies. There is information about salaries was absolutely transparent. So, despite of it, I think it is matter because if you know that kind of information, if you if you can see that money flowing and it is transparent. It make you belong to something maybe transparent, and your intention also have to be transparency and transparent according to the your colleagues, and it's make. For my personal opinion, it's a future of development of a business in general because it make you feel more motivated because you know what you do and the amount is transparent and your expectation also will confirmed by your maybe KPI or something, maybe by your efficiency. So if you are effective, you can earn more money. If you less effective, you earn less money. So this relation is very important for me as an employee in some company, and I think it's good for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so you think maybe, yes, it could make people want to earn more, but maybe that's a positive thing because maybe it would encourage them to maybe work harder or to do something else to kind of prove that they deserve as much as somebody else in the company is earning. Is that right? To get kind of more involved? Okay. Manu, Yusuf, what do you guys think about it?
Yes, I think if you happen to discover that someone working in your role, or maybe in a comparable role within the same firm, working place, I think you can feel some envy, and maybe you tend to compare if there is someone just a step upper in a hierarchy. You tend to compare, so you are tending to think what do they do which justify this increase in their wage relative to my wage. So there is this kind of dynamic maybe in the workplace somehow, and maybe you could be persuaded to slack down in your role. So you think if I'm not valued enough in terms of my wage, maybe I want to do something against this unfair behavior. So I want to slack down in my work, which is not moral, which is not ethical thing to do, but maybe is something in your power to do, to protest against this unfair treatment you are feeling. But in general, I think it's good not to think what your colleagues are earning relative to you, and just think to do your job at best. It is important just to know you are being considered. So your boss is thinking you are a good worker, and maybe giving you some reward once in a while. So it is the most important thing to focus to. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of have, you've kind of mentioned that there's two sides of this, right? I think there's lots of sides to it, to be honest, but I think it can go different ways, because I think, like Konstantin said, sometimes when you know what other people are earning, let's say if they work in a comparable job to you, it could give you maybe motivation, you know, to do something a little bit more, to think about how you're doing things, to make sure that, you know, you're doing your job the best you can. But on the other hand, it can also go the other way, right? I think it can also be very demotivating, especially if you already kind of believe that maybe you're a better worker than that other person. Because it could be, wow, this guy, you know, always arrives late, is always kind of slacking off. He's, you know, other people have to keep redoing their work, and yet he's earning more. You know, how's that fair? How does that work? So I think it could be motivating or it could be demotivating, depending on exactly who you're comparing yourself with and how you consider their work compared to your own. So I feel like it could go both ways here. Konstantin?
I would like to add this well-known fact. All of us, we work to earn some money, but the money is hidden. For my opinion, is injustice. So all realize we are working for the salaries, for the wages, and we have to earn it. And why amount it is a secret? It is maybe injustice, for my opinion, because you have to realize your abilities and your earnings is equal. So if it is not, you have to maybe change your work and search your next job place or something like that, or moving on the career ladder or something like that. And I think this information should be opened and should be clear. If you demotivate by fact your boss earn much more than you, so you have to chance leave this workplace and stop working in general, or maybe doing something. So I don't think it can demotivate you. So people earn a lot of money. Businessmen like white collar, we read in the article mentioned, they earned a lot of money. So but they are not satisfied. And if you come in such kind of company, so you understand your level of incomes, and you should to aim the digit you should to aim, and it's about maybe as we say figuratively, is about average temperature in all buildings. You know, it's about the company. For example, your office manager in company and your CEO in company, and your incomes very differ from each other. But it does not mean you have to be some jealous or something like that, and it give you to compare your opportunities. And for example, when you aim to be CEO, so it is motivate you to earn a lot of money. And I repeat that I repeat it because it is my only own opinion. This information should be clear and transparent, because some corruption scheme and something like that, I'm tired of it. And it's I don't know your reality you live, but we here have a lot of cases of corruption, of schemes, of something it's maybe some financial crimes or something like that. So I don't like this way to earn money. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think definitely this is one of the big reasons why pay transparency is important, so that you can't have these huge differences or kind of be unfair to some other workers. I think though, when we're thinking about being influenced by the different salaries and knowing about it, I don't know if it's so much about, you know, comparing yourself to how much your boss is earning, because obviously you would expect your boss to be earning more than you. That's why they're the boss. You know, they've got more responsibility. I think most people would kind of agree that they would kind of expect their boss to be earning more than they were earning. But I'd be more worried about when it was like a colleague who does basically the same thing that you do. So someone who is supposed to be on your level. Well, see, this is maybe why it isn't good to be a secret, because I think companies can, as you were saying, Konstantin, I think companies can maybe get away with doing some shady kind of business when they keep the salaries a secret, because they can maybe hire a lot of people who are technically doing the same job, but they could be paying all those people very different amounts. And unless there's a huge difference in their kind of performance in the job, I don't necessarily think that's kind of fair to do. But I know this is one of the things that they're trying to combat in the US, why they're trying to do this, because they find that, you know, people will go for an interview and they'll say, okay, what do you expect to earn? One person will say one number, another person will say another number, and they go, ooh, we were willing to pay much higher, but okay, this person will accept this amount, so let's just give them that amount. They'll be happy with that, so let's just give them that amount, and we'll save ourselves some money. And oh, okay, now we can't find someone else, so I guess we'll have to employ that guy and give him a little bit more money because he told us he kind of expected a bit more. So you could end up with people doing, you know, the same position in a company, but earning very different amounts just because they weren't really aware of how much the company actually planned to pay for it, or how much other people in the company already earn for doing that job. I don't know. What do you both think about this, about like pay transparency? Do you think it's a good thing to know, to have everything very clear? Or do you think it's better not to know? Manu?
Yes, thank you. But you know, in some sectors, in some firms, there is just a contract, a working contract set by the firm itself and the unions sometimes. So the wage levels for any position in the hierarchy is firmly set, and so you know what your colleague, your next desk colleague is earning because of their peculiar position, and so you know exactly what your colleagues are earning. And I think in other sectors, it is just the boss who decides what any of your colleagues is going to earn for several different reasons. So I think you can't compare yourself with others, because anyone other than you can provide some kind of benefit, also kind of soft benefit you can imagine of to the firm, to the productivity of the firm, and so maybe there are some kind of skills, some hidden skills. You can't imagine of that these other colleagues are providing to the society, to the firm. So it is unfair also to compare your wage to the others one. So maybe there are very many factors in play. Also, you remember when we read the article about the job titles. So nowadays in tech firms, especially, the roles are very different. So there are very imaginative kind of titles for jobs, and this can justify this very different level of wage too, because exactly for these reasons, because there are very kind of different skills, hidden skills, maybe also some kind of emotional how can I say, emotional cleverness, emotional abilities to deal with other people, maybe in sales, marketing sectors, etc. So there are a lot of different roles in your company. So wages have to follow this very different range of new job titles. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. It could be hard sometimes to actually know exactly what somebody is doing and whether they are offering something that's maybe of a different value to the company, which kind of justifies them receiving a different wage. Konstantin?
Yes, thank you so much, Natasha and Manu. I would like to share some part of my experience. So I had the interview with HR specialist, and we asked about the my expectation about the amount I want, and then I sounded. He was very surprised, and he asked me, "Why so small? Why you don't look? Why you don't think more?" So I was surprised, and it is maybe about a lot of things, priceless things exist. For example, the smile of our beloved, or something like that. And we have to remember, time is our main resources and resource, and it is priceless. So the price can be from zero and from minus to very big amount. And I believe all of us here in this chat room, we our price as workers can be very big. It depends on the employee. So maybe our expectation and how we recognize ourselves and the labor market, it can be misconception from our point, and just then we change our point of view and we find we can earn much more money. It's about thousands and millions dollars. So I believe in it, and just remember, time is maybe most precious resource. Thank you.
Yes, that's true. We can't underestimate ourselves. We should be very confident maybe in our worth and understand that it's not just related to our salary. Although from what I've seen, I still can't pay for my groceries with a smile. So salary still is a little important for some things. the grocery store won't just accept smiles for food. So the salary is still important. Okay. Well, we are out of time for today, but is there anything that anyone wanted to add before we finish? Any last thoughts or comments or stories or... Okay, so let's stop here for today. Thank you both very much. It's a pity that Yusuf was having issues and couldn't talk too much today with us, but hopefully next week it's all fixed. Ah, yes, and I will stop the bot from talking. So thank you very much, everyone. I will put the link here if you want to leave some other comments on the post as well, okay? And hopefully talk to you both again soon. Bye.